Good afternoon, everyone. My name is McCain Vogel. I'm the assistant editor at Farm Equipment. Thanks for joining us today for the digital demo titled Business Intelligence Software for Equipment Dealers, sponsored by Target. Presentation is going to feature Jared Cornelius, Director of Presale Consulting, and Tim McGuire, an account executive at Target. So business intelligence tools can help enable users to make data-driven decisions without an overwhelming requirement for deep expertise in advanced data. During this event, Jared and Tim are going to explore a couple different things. So how dealers can use reports and dashboards to make informed decisions, increase efficiency, and drive their business forward, among other things too. So without further ado, I'll hand it over. And then just one more thing before I do, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, you'll see a little Q&A icon at the bottom there. Feel free to enter questions there at any point throughout, and then we'll try and leave a little bit of time at the end of the presentation to get to those questions, get them answered for you. And then lastly, we also are recording the session, so in the event you want to go back and watch it later or share it with anyone, you'll be able to do so. Without further ado, Jared and Tim.
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you so much for the introduction. And I think that takes care of maybe the first slide that I have. So I know how much everybody loves slideshows, so I'll try to keep this brief. But again, yeah, my name is Tim McGuire, account executive. I've got Jared Cornelius, our director of pre-sales engineering, and we've got a pretty simple agenda for you today. I'm just going to give you a quick introduction into Target for those of you who aren't familiar. So who we are as a company, a little bit about our history, and really what makes us so unique and trusted by so many dealers. And then we'll go through some actual demonstration that we have with the dealer's data, and then we can get into some customer case studies and a Q&A if there's any questions. So just starting at a high level, Target, we are a reporting and analytics platform. So if you are familiar with other commonly referred to as business intelligence tools out there, that's exactly the space that we occupy. So we've actually been around for 20 plus years. We haven't always sort of existed in solely the heavy equipment space. The purpose of tools like Target is to really just give an organization a way to analyze their data and promote that throughout the organization the best way that they see fit. What this slide really just overviews is how we compete in our respective industry of business intelligence tools or reporting and analytics tools. And really the key takeaway here is that we just have a high focus in on, being industry specific. So a common challenge with organizations that want to do more with their data is that they just don't know how to really bridge that gap, right? You don't have the expertise to implement a tool like Target. So we take a pretty unique approach as a reporting vendor to specialize in just a few industries so that we can implement our solution with industry-specific KPIs and best practices. Another unique aspect of Target is that we are sort of focused in the SMB space, whereas a lot of our competitors are really sort of chasing the enterprise, the $1 billion+ clients. We're uniquely focused in sort of what we would consider the SMB space. So organizations from 10 to $500 million in revenue, and we feel that that's a great space for us because again, those are organizations that generally want to do more with their data. You're probably putting together a lot of reports and dashboards manually today. There's not a lot of automation. So you want to do better. You want to have that pretty dashboard that's got all of your organization's data in one place that you're pushing out to various business areas and departments and making decisions off that data. You just don't know really how to bridge the gap. And that's where Target comes in with our expertise. We also really just have a high focus on being an easy tool for organizations to pick up and use. So that's just a high level overview of what we are as a reporting platform and how we sort of exist within our respective industry of reporting platforms. But what makes us really unique, again, is this effort that we've been going through for the last 6 or 7 years now, just focused in primarily in the heavy equipment space. And so we actually made a conscious shift to focus in this vertical a few years ago, just because we noticed that there was a lot of need. There was a lot of dealers, everybody from 2 locations up to 30 plus that they all had the same sort of reporting practices, which is Excel or a lot of manually curated reports and very, very little, if no dashboards at all. And so most organizations, they weren't running what we would consider a data-driven organization. People were getting reports 30, 60 days at best in arrears. And, critical business questions weren't being answered or weren't being answered quick enough. So we really decided to focus in on this space, and really what this is blossomed into is over 99% of the business that we do here in North America is actually just with dealers now. So we've implemented over 80 dealers in the last 2 years alone. We have over 130 dealers in total that leverage Target, and then we've been building a very experienced consulting team that every one of these individuals has industry specific knowledge, right? They've worked in the heavy equipment space, either on the side of the DMS vendors or on the side of the dealer, in fact, so that we can again bring our knowledge of a good BI platform, reporting platform, together with our knowledge of the heavy equipment space to implement based on industry specific KPIs and best practices. And then we've even taken this process a step further for a lot of common data sources out there, such as CDK and DIS and JDIS, and built in sort of out of the box reports and dashboards. And then also really the important part, which is the back end, sort of the data warehousing piece of it. We've built in accelerators to help automate about 80% of that effort. So on top of working with an organization that just knows how dealers are owned and operated and structured and the KPIs and metrics that drive you, we also have actually built a component to our software that just automatically deploys about 80% of a solution. So there's a real head start that you can get with going to Target. And maybe just one more note on that, generally tools like Target they're expensive to get up and running. They really are. Larger dealers that try to take on this initiative by brute force, so to speak, just going out and hiring a dedicated data resource, somebody with this kind of background, generally spends 1 to 2 years investing in this to get a full solution built and running. A full solution being that every department, finance, sales, parts, service, and rental, has reports and dashboards that they can use, and that they do use on a daily basis. We generally shortcut that by that effort by about 70-80%. And then we insulate you from a lot of the risk as well, because we're not going anywhere, and potentially you could hire a resource that maybe builds something and leaves. So we've been a great fit for a lot of dealers and organizations, and we're continuing to invest in this space. I've talked about this already, but maybe just to give one more pass at the team that we have here deploying solutions for dealers. So again, they all have 10 plus years of experience each. And these are senior BI consultants. And the great thing about that is they can not only build out the back end, but they give you suggestions as to, best practices and what other dealers are doing on the front end. And as this sort of grows and snowballs for us, we're doing more and more in the dealer space. We're understanding more and more about it. We've got tons and tons and tons of examples of how dealers have leveraged Target for the service department, for financial reporting, for inventory tracking, all sorts of things. And one interesting aspect of Target is that we can bring in any number of data sources. So this is kind of an overview of Target from more of a technical perspective, really outside of the consulting piece of this, but the actual software piece, everything that encompasses Target. And so what that means is just we've got a front end and a back end that's used to help wrangle all the data sources together. So we're not just limited to the data that's within your DMS. In fact, 99% of the time, we're going to take it into minimum 2 or 3 different data sources into Target. So an example of that would be on top of your DMS would be like a CRM system, phone system for being able to track log calls and compare that to your CRM system and your sales. We oftentimes will bring in payroll data for tech efficiency metrics, and so that's primarily handled on the back end with our scheduling manager. And then on the front end, we have multiple ways to consume the data, whether it's a tablet, a browser, or even being able to push out reports to individuals either on their cell phone or as PDFs on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis, whatever makes sense. You can schedule anything with Target. And then maybe I'll go back just one slide for a second and touch on sort of the implementation process and expectations. I do have a slide later on this, but I do want to just mention that with this specialized implementation team and the acceleration we built, we can generally go live with a solution in just a couple of weeks. So you can have reports and dashboards ready to go, ready to for the organization to leverage within just a few weeks of of saying, yeah, Tim, let's do this. And so we've got a lot of existing relationships with the DMS vendors as well, so we can easily plug into your data. We've made those inroads, and we know those organizations well. So another really big benefit of going with Target. But with that, yeah, I think I'll pass it over to Jared for a platform overview, and we can look at some actual examples.
Great, thank you, Tim. Let me go ahead and bring up Target here, and so I can actually give a little demonstration live here. I've got a number of different dashboards and reports that we can look at, just kind of to set the stage. This is, of course, demo data, if you will. But it did originate from a dealer, a customer of ours. Everything's been anonymized. The numbers have been fudged, of course, to prevent any type of privacy protection. But it is all original data. And these are some examples of a lot of the common reports, common dashboards, and views that our customers like to leverage Target to get a better grasp on. Starting with something like this, which really acts as, maybe like a GM, dealer principals homepage, where they can get a overview across the organization, how the health of the company is doing, maybe from a financial perspective, an inventory health perspective, what the sales numbers look like, parts department, service and rental. These are showing things like just top level KPIs, year to date revenue in this perspective, and also tracking how does that compare to the same period the previous year. This typically would compare also like to your budget. In my demonstration environment here, I haven't loaded up real budget data here. That's just why it's showing 0 at the moment. But typically comparing against your budget, we look at kind of year over year, so you spot any seasonality in the data, and also broken down by branches, and then lots of links to additional reports in each of these areas down below. Bring up just another example to show you, kind of drill into something related to equipment sales here. And talk a little bit about how Target works, just to piggyback on what Tim was saying. So we are an end-to-end business intelligence platform, which really means this is kind of what I would say is the front end of Target in terms of the actual dashboards or reports that the insight that users receive. But there is a whole back end of Target that is really doing much of the heavy lifting. And by the back end, I mean it's a tool that's connecting up to the data sources, like Tim mentioned, right? Often your DMS or ERP system, but also maybe your separate payroll systems, so you can get more accurate technician efficiency metrics and productivity metrics, or even market related data. Any and all sources that might be relevant to bring in, Target's backend will connect to those systems and then bring it all together and model it into a much more logical and easy to understand, kind of a human friendly data source that. So when you want to go ask new questions or build reports on your own, which of course you can do in Target, it's very easy to do so. You're not having to navigate, copy and paste and export things out of Excel and cobble it together that way. It's also refreshing the data constantly. So typically overnight. So anytime I go to open the report, I know that I'm looking at up-to-date and accurate information. But then from there, right, just using this as an example, as a dashboard, looking at a gross profit overview where we have it, broken down new versus used equipment by my different branch locations, by individual customers, equipment categories, even my top salespersons. Everything that we see here is completely and easily customizable. Again, these are just some examples of good starting points. But then as you're, looking at any particular report or dashboard, you can interact with it in the sense that I can drill into, like in this location or in this example, a particular location, drill into Orlando. Everything now filters down just to show me Orlando's performance. Or if I want to go, pick on a particular salesperson and see, who he or she has sold to, right, and what that mix is across equipment categories, you can do that. Or if I want to get all the way down into, a single, invoice level detail, or if it's in the service side, a single work order level detail, you've got the lowest level of transactional information available to you through Target. So you can see the big picture, but I can also drill all the way down to the details. Like in this, kind of example I went through here, and go pull up the actual stock numbers that particular customer bought from that salesperson at that branch, in that given period of time, or whatever the case may be. So that's kind of a little bit on the feature function side of Target. Might switch over here and show you from kind of like a example of what I might say was a report catalog type of view. You can get a sense for the common areas that our dealers use Target to help them optimize. So, of course, sales, looking at sales by, region or, dealership location, equipment category, and so on, tracking measures, your margins and performance that way, or even from a financial perspective, automating, consolidating financial reports, income statements, balance sheets, better visibility and up-to-date visibility into AR and AP information, parts and inventory management, so tracking inventory turns, fill rates, obsolete parts inventory. Mentioned from a service technician perspective, tracking billable hours, realized labor rates, what your WIP aging looks like, and so on. Pull up an example of more like on the financial side, just to show you that not everything in Target's going to be a nice dashboard, of course, right? We're very often used to automate a lot of the tedious tasks like, monthly financials, just help you be able to not only just automate it and reduce a lot of manual time and pain each and every time you got to run these numbers, but also allow the appropriate folks to look at this at any point in time, right? And also, in this case, I can still drill in or navigate, in this case, the GL hierarchy, as you may want to keep track of. We're looking at month to date as of the previous month compared to that same month last year, what that difference is. Take eye charts, like this. So it often have lots of rows and lots of details, but be able to apply some conditional formatting so you can easily see are we moving up or down in the right direction. Also year to date compared to the previous year to date, that sort of thing. In addition to, kind of expanding the hierarchy, just like we saw before, I can drill into the underlying details, maybe see what transactions actually hit the general ledger for that particular GL account. If there is any AR or AP related information to that particular GL account that I clicked on, you've got that full ability to navigate down into the details. And you can also have something like this actually is often something that might just be delivered as a scheduled report, right? But really, regardless of whatever the document is, the type of content is, you'll have the ability to automatically set up, report schedules, right? And so like in this case, maybe I want to just add a schedule where this is going to send out my income statements, maybe, let's say the 5th day of every month, right? I just want to set up a schedule, choose what format it's going to get sent in, like a PDF, Excel, what the delivery mechanism is going to be, meaning, do we just want to put this into a folder somewhere so I can have Target automatically creating an archive of monthly snapshots for me? Or do we actually want to email it out to individuals? You can set up reports to be as a subscription, so users can basically opt in to receiving this on a periodic basis. And then there's a really handy option called batch processing. In the context of scheduling reports, maybe in this case I want to send out this report to each of my different branch locations. I don't want to I've got 10 branches in my demo data here, but whether you got 3, 10, 20, whatever it might be, I don't want to have to maintain separate copies of this report just because I want them filtered by the branch that's going to receive it. What I can do here is say I wanted to batch this report on my branches. And now, like I said, I've got 10 or so in my demo data. Now, when the schedule runs each month, it's going to automatically send out a report to each branch, and each branch is going to get just see their specific data and nobody else's. So again, Target basically goes through and will create a version of that report for each of the different branches and then deliver it accordingly. So just a really handy way to automate distribution. We see that used in a lot of different scenarios, like commission reports, where sales manager might have a single overview of their salespersons, but they might want to batch the commission report on the individual salesperson, and each will just see here his or her own commission statement. Might take you through maybe a few more examples. I actually didn't show you an output of that report, but just as an example, whether you're viewing it online or you want to batch out, kind of print quality PDF versions of reports, you can accomplish the same thing, multi-page, set up your page margins and so on. They can be as graphical or as detailed views of that data as you need to. Actually, one thing I might want to come back and just highlight too is talk about time. As you see here, what I'm doing is going and opening a new report. So a very intuitive interface for users to access the information that they're looking for, whether they're starting on that home page that I showed or they want to go navigate. Essentially, you have a virtual file system where you can organize things into folders, and then users can say, I want to bookmark certain things that I access, most frequently, or see things that I've recently opened or other popular information. But then there's also essentially a folder system that you can organize, put finance reports in a finance folder, parts reports in the parts folder, and so on. But back on, I was thinking of something related to my that income statement, a really handy option, because oftentimes it's great. I can run this kind of any point on demand, but you might want to go back and say, what did this look like 2 months ago, right? What did this look like in February? What did this look like at a certain point in the past? There's an option up here on the top right that I can essentially set like my system clock and say, I want to go back in time and run this as if it was, February 28th. And what that's going to do is essentially go back and now update this report. And we're looking at, current month to date as if it was, February 28th. So very easy to look at and analyze your data by different time frames. But also you might be able to do that right on the report as well. So in this case, I'm looking at a simple technician efficiency report where I can see what that distribution is by, kind of a cash code type or charge type. Is it internal? Is it customer shop charge, warranty, by branches? Again, same ability to drill into any one of these. Looking at what my overall, broken down by technicians, the hours worked, bill, that efficiency. And this by default is showing me year-to-date metrics. But now rather than that date origin, I can have an easy control that I can change that and say, what time frame do I want to look at this information by? Maybe it's, I want to look at it year-to-date, like the default. I want to see this over the previous 12 months, maybe just the current month, this month, or even set, specific ranges. I want to go and, highlight these specific months from this specific year. Very easy to, again, just analyze and work with or interact with the data in whatever manner is desired for according to the content that somebody's looking at. Again, nice department overviews for service managers, for parts managers, your controllers, whatever the case may be. Target really helps give you at a glance insight and really automate that effort on an ongoing basis. So really, these are just a few examples of some of the common reports and kind of an overview of how Target works. I've got a lot of additional examples. We work with a lot of various customers who use Target to analyze all kinds of different data sets and different systems. That if you're interested in seeing a little bit more in-depth example on how some of these reports are created, or some different looks and feels and use cases, we'd love to set up kind of a personal demonstration and walk through these examples and others in more detail. Hopefully that gives you a good sense for kind of how Target looks and feels. I might just wrap it up with one more little bit of a technical slide and then pass it back over to Tim. But I mentioned, Target's an end-to-end platform. So just sort of like a data flow architecture, like diagram view to describe how it works is. I mentioned that back-end process of Target where we're going to be connecting up to your DMS system, maybe your payroll system, maybe you got budget data or other information in Excel, whatever the sources might be. Target has the ability to pull that data in and load it into our own in-memory database. So it's a high-scale, high-performant, purpose-built for analytic and reporting use cases where all the data from, could be single source, could be 30 sources, are all nice and logically organized and structured inside of Target to make reporting super easy. And then there's a Target server where essentially to get insight into it, for your report designers and report creators. We have a full-featured Windows application to do all your slicing and dicing and report creation. But most of your users are really just going to be what we refer to as consumers, just you're the business folks that need to look at this information, and they're going to be able to access that very easily online through their preferred web browser, or pull it up right on their mobile phone, or again batch it out or send out scheduled reports so they get them in their inbox. You can do that. Target can also be embedded into other applications, or like a SharePoint portal, or a Teams environment, something like that. So you can really deliver and distribute information, or get this insight into the hands of any and everybody who needs it, so everybody can be on the same page and using data to make more informed business decisions. So with that, Tim, maybe I'll turn it back over to you.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Jared. All right, let's share my screen again here. And I think the next topic we have is to go over some customer use cases. So, one thing we like to do when we finish implementing our clients and our dealers, and we like to ask them, what were the business benefits that they had realized since implementing Target. Really, the point here is we want to make sure that we're providing more than just prettier visualizations and a better way to look at your data. So you'll see some highlighted responses here, like better business decisions, improved data consolidation and accuracy. That's a really big one. We both mentioned earlier that most dealers that we engage with, what they're doing today is a very manual process. It opens itself up to just errors, and errors either from just inputting all the way to maybe they're just not getting the right data, that they're not able to bring the data sources necessary to come up with whatever the actionable metric is. And so that's a huge benefit that a lot of our dealers convey to us that they see since implementing Target. Employee productivity, honestly, that's one where you can see across the board, just being able to give users throughout the organization, department managers, people that are interacting, that you want to interact with data and run more data-driven businesses, and give them the metrics they need every day. And just make them more productive, so they're not having to hunt for that data. Operational efficiency, obviously, in the operational areas, that's one of the big areas where a lot of our dealers see some improvements. Service tech efficiency metrics, even customer satisfaction. We've got our Target Dealer Week next week, and one of the presenters is an organization that specializes in collecting NPS scoring and survey data from your customers, right? Post sale or post service visit, and that data can be really impactful when paired with your transactions, so you can understand just who's happy. Is it correlating to business? Are you guys losing business? And where improvements may need to be made, and then obviously just competitive advantage. It's if you're not doing this, one of your competitors probably is, right? And they're running a tighter business. They're being able to ask business questions. They're being able to understand, where their money's going, where they need to put their money, where their gaps are. And so a huge benefit of BI is just being able to understand the health of your business. And then this is reflected in, we have a lot of great customer use cases on our website. And I can make sure, or you can reach out to me, or I can make sure that we could send over a link that has some of these. These are also on our YouTube page. But again, the point is that whether it's the service department being able to more accurately track tech efficiencies, get those metrics out to the techs, whether it's in the sales department being able to automate commission reporting, get those out to sales guys who can then just honestly become more motivated because that's how they're operated, and then even just department manager productivity, right? So they're not having to manually put together reports or operate blindly. There's a lot of documented ROI we have with Target, and we've got a great implementation process as well that it really focuses in on the areas of your business where you feel that you're struggling the most, so that we can bring value sooner rather than later, and honestly just pay for ourselves. As a software company, we want to make sure that you're happy, and the way that I'm sure we'll get this question later, but the way that Target is sort of priced is on an annual basis, right? So we have an invested interest in just making sure that you're successful in getting value out of our tool, because you can, in a sense, fire us, right, if you're not getting value. And so maybe before I wrap things up, and actually I may go to one more slide and come back to this one. I do want to highlight just some of the implementations that we've done over the last, this says 18 months. This is probably more like 36 months because there's a couple peppered in here that have been customers a little bit longer. But the purpose of this slide is really just to highlight that, across all sorts of brands, we've been able to see value, or dealers have been able to see value, right? From 2 locations to 30 plus. There's definitely a need for Target, and a lot of these customers are very vocal and referenceable and happy with their with what Target is doing for their organization. So just to recap a little bit, why would a dealer want to leverage BI? So probably the 5 key reasons of wanting to leverage BI is, one, being able to get a single source of data, right? Aggregating multiple data sources, whether it's, EDA market data, payroll, route analytics, NPS marketing, even website traffic data, CRM, and more. You can put that all into one place so you know where to get it, and you're making decisions based off that. And then also, being able to just to blend those various data sources into a single report can, it can always surface some insights. Obviously, automating the current reporting, we've talked about that a lot on this call, but again, that just frees your guys' time up to really just run a better business, right? You're not having to constantly ask, what did we do yesterday? You can really ask, questions of your data, right? I have a bullet up here, taking your reporting with you. So, we have a good relationship with pretty much all the DMSs, meaning that we've got some sort of a line of dialogue open where we can, easily plug into the data, and we know our way around those organizations. But we do understand that dealers migrate DMSs. You may go from DIS to CDK or vice versa, may move back and forth. And one big benefit of BI is, or Target, is that we exist separately from the DMS. So that is one component where if you go from one to the other vendor, your reporting stays intact, and we just sort of plug into the new DMS. And then just becoming data driven. That's there's really this data journey that we go on with our dealers, and at first it starts with just understanding the health of your business, right, and being able to automate what you have today. But on the right side of that curve is really becoming data driven, and just understanding why things are happening, and being able to make decisions based off those data. Because ultimately, you just don't know what you don't know, right? With limited access to your data today, you can't properly understand the health of your business. I went over this slide earlier. One thing I did want to come back to as well is I mentioned the accelerators that we have for a lot of the common DMSs out there that we work with often. These are, again, what we have built in just with over continuous implementations. There's parts of that we can really script out and automate just to get a head start versus if you were going to try to do something like this from scratch. And so what the accelerators encompass is a process on the back end to help populate the data warehouse that Jared was mentioning. And then on the front end, we have out-of-the-box reports and dashboards that are all really meant as inspirations. You can take them, you can use them as is, or you can use them as a starting point and tailor them from there. But the point is these are all put together by request from dealers often enough to where we just sort of built them in. So they're generally a really, really good starting point. That way you're not just having to start from absolute zero. And then what this looks like from a timeline perspective when you are able, when we use our accelerators. So what this slide is representing is sort of the process that is shortcutted by our accelerator. So I mentioned a few slides ago that if you were to tackle this yourselves, go out and hire some sort of a data warehousing business intelligence resource, and then teach them the nuances of your business, the nuances of your DMS, and then the nuances of just the industry in general. And then they'd have to get to work, right, doing all the data migration and building of cubes on the back end. At best, that process is probably going to take them 12 to 24 months. We automate about 80% of that. So where you start with Target is where that process, this little line here, where we're able to get a majority of that process shortcutted, and we can get you guys up and running in your first business area, a business area being, parts, sales, service, finance, or rental, within around 3 to 4 weeks. And then the subsequent business areas we can get online between 2 to 3 weeks. So it really is a rapid deployment. Now, honestly, your mileage may vary. There are definitely times where we get to a specific business area as we implement, and customers want to spend more time, maybe working with us and building out more reports in there. So, we definitely are more than willing to spend as much time as needed to make sure everything is complete as possible. But if we want to focus in on sort of our report inspirations and what we have out of the box, we can really get up and running and get some impactful reports out to the organization in a quick amount of time. And then the last slide I have here really just overviews the support we give our dealers from an organizational perspective. So we are really invested in this space. So we put together things like Target Dealer Week, which we have coming up next week. We have a really active user group and forum community that we provide to our customers, where you can interact with other customers, other dealers on a more daily basis, see how people are leveraging the tools. We have great training, both instructor led and virtual. If you have a resource there where you want to make sure that they can continue to support Target, and that's actually a good point. And I'm sure this may come up as a question later, but what is needed from your end to support Target? And honestly, that's really up to you. If we have dealers that leverage us, on a monthly basis because they just don't have the resource to build reports and dashboards as the organization requests it. So we're more than happy to work with you in that capacity. I would say the most common though is you've got somebody there that is familiar with the data. They're probably doing something with a data query tool today, data miner or whatnot, and that's somebody where we can empower them. We can train them on the front end of how to build reports and dashboards, which is a much easier exercise within Target versus the data miner. And we'll just focus in on really building the back end for you guys, making sure that you get up and running quickly and efficiently. We'll make sure that person is trained the best way they see fit. Again, whether that's 1 or 2 days of live training or giving them access to our e-learning where they can go through at their own pace. And then they can support the organization from a report creation standpoint from that point. But yeah, we give all of our customers access to this. We also have all of our documentation is online and searchable, and we've got a lot of great walkthrough videos and tutorials. And yeah, before we get into Q&A, I do just want to give a quick plug. We've got our Target Dealer Week next week. This is 3 days, consists of around 11 sessions. And this isn't just solely focused in on Target. Really, the point here, we have a lot of our existing customers that attend. We want to make sure that we're bringing value, and especially since we're so invested in this heavy equipment space. And so we're bringing in industry experts from all over the place just to talk about everything from service department efficiencies to running a data-driven business to, as I mentioned earlier, even doing like NPS scoring and understanding your customers better. So yeah, if you're interested in that, we've got the link on our website. But with that, that's all I have for slides, and we can get into some Q&A if anybody has some questions.
Yeah, so thanks Jared and Tim for the presentation. Like I said before, if anyone has any questions, there's a Q&A panel at the bottom there. You can click it, submit a question. We'll read them off for you, get an answer. We did have one that came up. Just one that came up throughout the presentation. Someone was asking if you could quickly go back to the second service manager page again.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe this was the one, but feel free to chime in again and correct me. This is really just acting as a department overview for a service manager. Now, granted, on my particular example here, it looks a little wonky because, like I mentioned earlier, I don't have budget data, like hypothetical budget data loaded in. So normally these act as like a progress bar towards your budget goals. It also happens that my demo data, the WIP is all in the current bucket. Normally, you'd see this pie as more of a mix of like what's in 30 to 60 days, 60 to 90. That sort of thing. Likewise, you'd have different slices of what the mix is of aging buckets in these. But again, the idea is it's fully customizable. This is tracking efficiency by different work order types. What my efficiency trend looks like over time, broken down by individual techs. Also, what the WIP amount is by my top customers. I actually have another example of this same concept, the idea of a department manager, service manager overview. Let me bring this up. This is actually just a screenshot, but this also kind of highlights how customizable Target really allows you to get, and such that this incorporates this particular company's theme or branding, and this is how working with working with their team during that implementation process that Tim was describing, we'll often use a lot of our templates or our examples as inspiration, but then easily tailor it to meet your specific needs. And so like this kind of shows the output of sort of that kind of that initial kickoff meeting that we have, where work with the appropriate stakeholders and they say, oh, no, this is really what we want to use to track our business, and this is how we want to look at things, and might request the specific metrics that they're used to looking at, or we'll brainstorm some additional things that help them keep track of visibility on what they're doing. So, and then help get that tailored and set up for you right out of the gate. But again, you'll have the ability to create and modify the target dashboards and reports as much as you want, and it's very easy to do so. This again example, use a little bit more conditional formatting, so you can easily see we above or below where we want to be relative to our budget to prior year, looking at what the gross margin is month to date, what that percentage is versus budget, total WIP amount, what that breakdown is for parts, labor, other. Now we have recovery rate as metrics, billing rates as metrics, and efficiencies here as metrics. So really very flexible in terms of what you can deliver or get visibility into with Target. Hopefully that addressed that question or topic, what you wanted to see.
All right, well, that was the only question we had. So if anyone else thinks of anything that they wanted to get answered, feel free to contact Jared or Tim, or you can also send them to us through farmequipment.com, and we'll make sure to get an answer for you there. Otherwise, we can wrap up. Thanks everyone for a great presentation today. The audio will be made available on Farm Equipment website. You should get an email within the next 48 hours, typically is how it works. So watch out in your email for that if you do end up wanting to share it with anyone or go back and view portions of it again. And then on behalf of Target and Farm Equipment, just want to say thanks for joining us today. Please feel free to reach out to us if you have ideas for other topics you want to see us cover in webinars or future digital demos. And without further ado, guys, thanks again and enjoy the rest of your day.